So, welcome to the second hour of Mind Shifters Radio. Today is Tuesday, November 25th, 2025. And welcome to the show. Hello, Miss Susan. Hi, Andrea.
Hi.
How are you?
Okay. How are you?
Good. We got a little boy running around here like crazy right now, and Aria's in her room eating her lunch. And so, busy morning.
Yeah. How's your foot?
It's actually doing a lot better. I'm actually walking around, putting the weight on my heel, not on the foot itself, uh,
Great.
without the crutches. So,
Good
uh,
work.
yeah, so I'm going to see it totally healed. But
Good.
anyway, it's doing well. I haven't gotten back to the book yet. It's been a little bit
Oh, that's okay.
hectic, but we're getting there. And we
Yeah.
don't have the kids for the rest of the week. Gabby's off work, so I'll get back to it tomorrow or after Thanksgiving one.
Right.
Yeah. Welcome, Susan. Andrea, good to see you all here. And Michael is with us. He doesn't have his microphone on yet, but we had a good show yesterday. Processing.
Hey, Susan, how was your how were your days on the road to get home?
Sorry about that. I'm just going to won't be coming on video, but because I'm hanging out in bed with my kitty cat. Yeah, we had a it was amazing. Like I said to you, so much magic because we stopped in Atlanta and got to hang out with Linda's friend, Bill Phillips, for 8 hours. And so informative about ley lines. And we got to go see pyroglyphs and went to energy centers. And I got a crystal that I brought home. And then lots of magic happened for us, and I'm sure Andrea could talk to it too. We just so much. We just laughed a lot, but lots of processing and met different people, and yeah, it was great. Really, really good.
Well, I had a long conversation with Bill and learned that we're actually approaching the same point, but from totally different directions. So it was an interesting conversation. And
Mm,
we have some similarities in our background. His in engineering, mine in
yeah.
electronics, but there was some connecting conferences we both attended over the decades, that sort of thing. So it was an interesting conversation. I look
Oh,
forward
good.
to learning more about what he's doing, coming from a totally different direction, but heading basically demystifying the things that have been purposely made mystical by the ignorant and
Yeah,
bring them back into here's the way it works. So it was a good conversation. Really enjoyed it.
I know you can't
Welcome,
make it up.
Cammie. Kathy.
Can't make Cammie's joined.
Hmm?
Yeah,
Yeah, you
Cammie, I
can't
wanted
make it
to.
up.
Yeah, no, you can't. And for everybody that don't know, so normally I wouldn't fly through Atlanta, but we ended up on the way down booking our flights. We'd have to spend the day and night in Atlanta, or afternoon and day. And lo and behold, Linda, her and I were talking at the retreat, and he phoned at the exact time we're talking. And then she said, "Oh, she does grid work around the planet." And then he asked me some questions, and then I told him I'm coming to Atlanta, and the rest is history. But yeah, very familiar. I knew his soul again, same. Yeah, so very interesting. But with Cammie here, Cammie, I wanted to ask, well, because I listened to the radio show yesterday, and
Mm-hmm.
I got some little, and I'll just tell you what I perceived when you were speaking, and I made some notes, so I just got to go find it here.
I'm sorry. Hang on a minute, Susan.
Okay,
Matt got on the phone and I can't hear.
where
I'd
did I
have to
put
go
the?
ahead and right.
Okay,
Okay. I can barely hear you guys. I don't know. The volume's really low today.
is it? Can you hear me now?
I can just I can hear you, just not if there's distractions. I think it
Hmm,
might be because I have earbuds on instead of just going through my phone. I don't know.
got it.
Okay.
Well,
What was your
I will say it, and then I'll also text it because I made notes about it. So I was listening, and right away, energetically, I could feel so much more going on when you were speaking, and I was really listening to your language. because you were talking about, you know, how you held space and you were doing really good until you weren't. And then that you mentioned about, you know, how you really were present and really listening to Matt and being a safe witness for his experience and how he had used the file folder of his power person and then projected that over and externalized that to Michael. Then you said
Mhm.
the question about what about me? And then you said about, you know, about being considered, that you wished he would have been more involved and that he would have considered you what it was like for you. Okay. So, and then you
Right.
went on to talk about, you know, how what you said something that triggered him and then having to tiptoe around that from that point on. So, what I picked up instantly, you being in the womb, okay, and your or your, I guess your mom, your adopted mom, I don't know, was going yelling to your birth mom. Where was baby Cammie being, or little developmental Cammie, the fetus, being considered in all that was going on? And so for you in that moment, so and then you said you noticed with Matt that there is, you know, you react, because replaying the scene, and the amygdala hijack took you right back where you're in freeze response of being in the womb and not being able to do anything, but being marinated in that chaos and the energetic pattern of all that yelling. So how does that feel when I
Yes.
say all that?
Um,
And
it
let's
feels
breathe.
like it.
Make
Breathing
sure you're
with you.
Yeah.
breathing. Yeah, breathing,
Um,
very, very important. And I just, before you say something that's coming through now, I just want to acknowledge that growing fetus, that it must have been so overwhelming, especially when you're only perceiving the world through vibration. And we know
mhm.
when incoherent energetic patterns comes in and how disrupting that can be for a nervous system, and how it would be completely deregulated and going into sympathetic dominance, as Michael says.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Um,
so that part of you, I want to acknowledge her. I want to say, wow, and you've come so far, and that she's safe and she can just feel and be with that we're here holding space for her as she can regulate, and letting her know that yelling and any type of behavior that is not loving is not the way of things. That
not the
love,
way of what
not the way of things. In health, in
things.
healthy love, in love itself, it is always healing, respectful, caring, gentle, kind, tender, peaceful.
And that conflict is not normal.
Yes.
Yeah,
Um,
just breathing with you too.
yeah, thank you so much. It rings true. The part that I resisted was when you said it wasn't about me, because according to them, it was all about me and what was best for me, you know. But it really wasn't. Like, I know that's true, but that's just where my mind went when you first said that. Um, I watched that video that you sent me last night, Michael,
Yes.
and this woman was talking about how, you know, when our parents were in utero,
Yeah.
that all of that went on because the eggs were being created when our mother was.
Right.
The egg was being created. The eggs were all created during that time. That egg carries all of that, and I thought that was really cool. So it's that that brought up it brought it deeper to the genetic aspect of how important those first two behind us generations and what they went through. Um, well, no, I guess it goes all the way back. It goes all the way back. Never mind. Um, but it gave me a deeper understanding thinking about those eggs being created from the very beginning of my grandmother's. Um,
Yeah, I just posted the
but
link in there so everybody can watch that video. It's very powerful. So just a powerful interview with a brain scientist. And just to back on what Susan had fed back to, that it wasn't about you, my offering was that you were the topic of conversation, but the conflict wasn't about you. It was about them.
right,
So you may have been the subject, but you weren't. It had nothing to do with you. You were pretty much the quote unquote bystander.
yeah. And Linda did a test on me while we were at the intensive that my back pain, she said, started in utero. That was when I first felt it. So that was kind of helpful too because I'd been suspecting that, but it was good to get confirmation.
Sounds right
All
on,
that
Susan.
rage, all that rage that was surrounding me that I took
Bravo,
on.
Cammie. Yeah, bravo to
Yeah,
your work, to how you're showing up, and just a testament to this work. And isn't it funny when Michael went through the personal code evaluations and outlined that your blockage, the truth is lifting, so that this level of awareness can now come into your field, even to
mm-hmm,
the depth to find what we're talking about today, so that through your reality screen, you can now perceive the truth of it. And then truth
yeah,
of self, and also truth of other, where Matt's at, and even finding his projections and externalizations on Michael, and recognizing it's not about you.
right. And that was pretty much where I've been all morning in meditation um and my thought process is that it's just not about me.
And that's beautiful. And I had an experience yesterday. I got triggered by having to pay twice for baggage, and it was a really big trigger. So I knew by my level of upset, it wasn't something new, or it never is, that that level of upset was coming from somewhere. So I said to Anita and Andrea, I got to do worksheets. So I'm sitting down, and then I tracked it. Believe it or not, my mother had an experience when in the Second World War, my father was from Switzerland, and you couldn't get chocolate. So I think he stole money. And then they went and bought this big truckload of chocolate. We're going to sell it. And they went to go get it from the guy delivering the chocolate. Well, he beat her up and took the chocolate and the money. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, that came into my field because it was all around being a victim. I'm like, what the heck? That dropped in, and I end up doing worksheets as my mother. And all the language I used to use, like, I can't believe this doesn't go my way. Like, and I did a mind shifter around it too. I think it was safe and easy and healing for me to be present and accept what is, even when it seems that I'm being victimized. And
Mm-hmm.
I did the mind shifter on that. And then that released all this back to what was held in my mom's genetics, which was playing out through the physiology of me. because I was using the exact language when I was younger. I can't believe this is happening to me. What did I do wrong? All of that language, those thought form statements, and it wasn't even mine.
Yes. Dr. Tim's show touched a lot about that today,
Yeah,
I thought.
yeah,
My
yeah.
perception of it anyway.
So yeah, it's amazing that we get to bring this forward. And it's a continuation, and it's just going deeper and deeper from what we got to do at the intensive.
Yeah.
And I just put a link in for it's interesting, the exact words being used, all the rage. And that's the name of Dr. John Sarno, the back surgeon who stopped doing back surgery, teaching people that their back pain is their unconscious rage. So that link is in the chat too. And acknowledging your centeredness in this, Cammie, and you too, Susan, that you were able to take that trigger, that generous trigger of being overcharged for baggage, and trace it right back to its roots, to its origins, and that's such a powerful demonstration of the work. Congratulations, it's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, I know it felt really good, and it was like I could really feel it, and also, by the way, when I was actually doing the worksheet and the mind shifter viscerally on the body, within my solar plexus, I could feel it, and yet I knew it wasn't mine. As I was doing the worksheet, I got to be one step removed because I was doing it as my mother, and I could feel what she felt when that had happened to her. And yet it was going through me in this physiology. So very, very powerful.
That's awesome.
It is. It is. And I'll just share with the group that one of the things that just became clearer and clearer and clearer in the intensive was the value of the breath. We actually had Patrick, who was on the show a couple of months ago, talking about centerline balancing. Well, Patrick came up and spent a couple of days with us doing some of the centerline balancing work, recognizing that the real flow of life only happens, the real intelligence of life comes in with the breath, and the energy that powers life is through alignment. And so Patrick did some of that centerline balancing that we spoke about a couple of months ago on the show. And then Patrick happens to be, for those who don't know him, happens to be beautifully bald. And he did just a really willing, powerful process where he dealt with some deep issues. His wife is on the verge of passing, and there's been a lot of conflict with the family. And the reason I mentioned Patrick being bald was because he was just in a deep space of willingness, and every time that he held his breath and to do that tightened some part of his body, it always reflected in his bald head. You could see the jaw tightening down, the head tightening, you could just see it. And so each time it was just so visible, and there was a very intense, and it's not something I'm telling out of school, Patrick shared this on the radio show previously, but it was a very intense conflict situation. And it was so visible, it became like this was the second day of the intensive. And it was just so visible how Patrick would be in his anger and hurt and pain and suffering around the whole family system. Without going into the story, there was a lot of crazy stuff happened. And he would be in that pain and trauma, holding his breath. And each time we would just remind him, so Patrick, take a breath. It's safe to breathe, and take a breath. And you'd watch the transformation of that thought. And he probably went through, I don't know, 10 different conversations, 10 different expressions where that shut down of breath and the pain became so obvious. And then literally, because he was in such a state of willingness, that he would, when reminded, simply take a breath and soften that and step into such a different space, such a sweet space. And the next morning he called, and, on a scale of 1 to 10, I've had 20 conversations with Patrick over the last, as you've heard on the radio show, he's been on the show a couple of times talking about it, 20 conversations about all the trauma and drama and the unfairness and all the stuff in the relationship with his wife's family. And that has been going on for years. And as a result of that session, he called the next morning. He said, I got back to Florida. He was only there could only be there for a couple of days. He had to be back for his wife. And he called the next morning. He's like, I met with the family, and all I had was sweetness. And that was a basic bottom line message. I mean, such a transformation. And so really just expressing or confirming for everyone this idea that the body has no life in it. It only has memory. And if it's in a memory of trauma, all the carbon-based memory can do is play out that trauma. Life enters the human form through the breath. When we cut ourselves off from the breath, we literally cut ourselves off from life. When we allow ourselves to reconnect with the breath, we allow ourselves to turn over whatever the trauma is to the intelligence of the breath, then there is the dissolution of the pain and trauma. And that part and parcel of that is keeping ourselves aligned energetically so that there is a proper exchange of energy and information between that in which we live, move, and have our being and our physiology. And then that the breath is literally life itself. And that if we disconnect from that, that idea that was expressed as the denial of the Holy Spirit is the unforgivable sin. Well, let's forget this Holy Spirit thing. There's nothing about a ghost or a disembodied spirit being or some ghost that flew down from heaven or all that Greek malarkey, pardon my French, but that's what it is. It's simply the breath. And that when we allow ourselves to reconnect with the intelligence of the breath, it is literally the breath that comes in and heals us. It is literally the breath that brings life to this clay form that we inhabit. And to give up the habit of disconnecting from life is so enormous. So thank you, Patrick, for sharing that. And I wonder if anybody that was at the intensive has anything else to share about this. Susan, I see you still have your mic on. You want to go ahead and share?
Yeah, I wanted to say, being there as the observer, I could see when he would constrict. And so it was almost like cognitive dissonance I was observing,
Exactly what it is.
where his non-being mind kept coming forward. And you could tell because how he would go down the rabbit hole of a story.
Yeah.
And then he would follow the trail of the story, and yet that is the moment that his physiology was completely constricted, and you kept pointing that out to him. And I could see that the mind or the brain, it was churning into the story. And then as you kept getting him to do that, and then when we all came together to the toning, because for everybody, we did a toning exercise, which really brought into the oneness of the group. We started that way at the very beginning, which was magical. With Dusty talking about how, the physiology of how that works. And then we did that with Patrick. And then that's after that process, which took quite a while, right? He was in his process for quite a while.
Yeah.
And then when
It
we
was
did
such
that,
a
he was able
blessing
to
that he
break
was
forward.
bald, though, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That we could see so clearly. I mean, it was just so perfect. Thank you,
And,
Patrick.
yeah, and then with him being inside, what I say to my clients often is when you're inside the jar, you can't see the label. But we're all watching him, seeing that he's in constriction, but he's on the inside having the experience. And you say that, what's the term that you use? When you're up to your butt in alligators, you know,
Right.
you forget that the objective was to drain the swamp. So
Right.
that's exactly what was happening in his experience. The non-replicant mind stories and patterning were coming to the surface through language. And then, but he kept having what I want to say is mirrors or us as safe witnesses. And we kept saying, "Well, there's only one of us here." And so he was able to slowly chisel away because his willingness to believe that we are all one. And then when we went into the toning, the release happened. That's how I saw it.
Yeah, it was powerful.
Yeah.
It was. I wish it would have been such a gift to the world if we had had that whole process on video.
Yeah, actually, that's very true. That might be something to consider in the future then to start taping
Yes.
the sessions. Those when
Yes.
you're doing deep processing sessions for sure. Yeah.
For sure. Anyone else have any thoughts on that was there on watching the process with Patrick? Just hit me button if you have thought to share with us.
For me, it was witnessing in a few different circumstances how what I see as a denial wall, how the resistance, I guess is what I'm speaking to,
Right.
how it looks, how, like from the outside, while being simultaneously conscious of what it feels like being on the inside of that experience as the one experiencing it.
Right.
And that was hugely valuable for me because when, I'm building these new awarenesses, these new brain cells for
Right.
this specific deep accountability way of processing, um, there can be so much wounding still within that to even understand that this state of denial and dissociation, what it like essentially like what it can be. I'm just trying to think of the right word. It's almost like, well, I guess like Susan is describing what you and her called like being in the jar and whatever your description was. And that was really rich for me because there were aspects of me still taking it personally, feeling misunderstood, um, and not quite sure where I fit in the community. So to be able to see that so potently and then watch the resistance dissolve was incredibly powerful and is memories that I will hold and keep as a template for reminder of myself when I'm going through that. It's like an energetic template that I'm now holding that I feel is accessible to me to tap back into of this memory of a softening process that feels so much more accessible than it did before. So that was really powerful for me.
Yeah, I'm with you on that 100%. I'm with you on that, and I'm putting another link into the notes for the Sarno video. I see you tried it, and it says it's not available, which is kind of weird, but it is also here. I just put an Amazon link in that I just copied. So, but yeah, watching it happen, being the observer, having the brain cells to know it's possible. Otherwise, I mean, what have all of us observed? All of our lives, people living in trauma and pain, yelling, screaming, raging, blaming. Look at what they're doing to me. Look at what's out there, and never understanding that. Well, some of that's justified, but the fact is, I'm involved in my life, and I can change the part of me that sets up this "why is this happening to me again" experience. It's like mind-boggling when you actually get to see it happen. I'm with you. That's why I wish we'd had that on video, because it was such a clear example, and the fact that the musculature of his head being bald was just made it so visible. Each time he would start to tighten up, it was just, and you could just watch his story change with each time it tightened, and each time he was willing to take a breath and it softened, you could just see go back to that connected space of love. It's like literally, when they said the denial of the Holy Spirit is the unforgivable sin, or at least the Greeks speak of that in Aramaic. That's not it. It's when we don't allow the power that can undo our errors access, then we're stuck in unforgiveness. And it's interesting, I was actually doing some research and writing on that this morning, and the actual words, if you look at that passage in Aramaic, is a point where Yeshua is saying is, you can deny me. Doesn't matter. I don't care. You can deny me. But if you deny this one that gives you life and intelligence, you're in trouble. In essence, is what he says. He's like, the whole focus is on Yeshua in so much of so-called Christianity. But he says, no, it's not me. This is what I came to connect you to. And to me, that was just a beautiful, dramatic presentation of it. It's mind-boggling. So anything else to share for you, Andrea, or what unfolded?
I think for me, like one of the things that I'm noticing really integrating today is, I mean, I think there's many things, but from the whole intensive, what was really healing for me was moving back into a state that I've been able to touch into before of reaffirming and reactivating the process, like the natural process of being in this human experience, and ways in which I'm seeing there's more opportunity to ground into my body and being human, and that the biggest thing actually that just drops in is being so safe to experience anything and everything that comes up within me that's just asking to move through. And I know it can like be presented as really simple, because for me, it can be really complex, where I have shared like about feeling complex and that there's so many triggers that can come up so quickly, and before I know it, I'm overwhelmed and I don't know where to start, don't even know what's happening for me, dissociated. And but what was really potent was this, it feels like a new template is activated deeper than before,
Yay.
where it's like it's okay, it can all come up, and it can even all come up at once. And I can be in that very dysregulated state and be disconnected, but also know that there's people there and I can actually process through the darkest of dark. And not have to do it alone, which is like my
Right.
biggest heart field takeaway.
Mm. And you don't have to figure it out. All you have to do is breathe, and it handles itself. It's like, what are we, that old jingle, pop, pop, fizz, fizz. Oh, what a relief it is. It's like, yeah. And we all have access to that right there inside of us. And, one of the things I'm working on writing about from the perspective of the Aramaic and what the Greeks did is Yeshua was saying, it is in your own nostrils. Here it is. And the Greeks took it out and made it some kind of, ghost that flew from the sky from God and came in and was this, and they have this whole story about it. And it ripped us off for the solution and put it in somebody else's hands. And somebody that wanted to have power over us. Where Yeshua was like, here it is. It's right here. You own it. It was given to you. It's like the the world based in fear talks so much about salvation and being saved from some evil thing out there, when the very moment that you were given your first breath, you were given that thing they're referring to as salvation. It is literally your own breath in your own nostrils, and it's yours all the time if you choose to connect with it, as opposed to something controlled by priests or whatever. And acknowledging that there are many in ministerial roles and priestly roles, nuns, that are awesomely connected and awesomely there to support and bring about healing. But unfortunately, as when Yeshua was around 2,000 years ago, there's a group that wants to keep it to themselves. They were called the Pharisaical mind. And, if you remember, Yeshua talks to them, he holds them accountable. He says, your father is the father of liars. There is no truth in him. And you put a burden on people that you won't touch with one of your fingers. And it was like the solution was removed from our hands through the manipulation of words. And so, of course, one of the objectives of this work is to put it back into each person's hands. It is right there. It was given to you your first breath. That's what the world calls salvation. And you may or may not be familiar. Well, I think you were probably on some of the radio shows where I talked about it, but what am I thinking of? One of the founding fathers, one of the signers, Ben Franklin, came out of the Continental Congress, and somebody asked him, well, do we have a republic? He says, you got your republic if you can keep it. In this world of insanity, you've got your human life if you can keep it. And it is literally the breath coming into your own nostrils. It isn't in your body, and it doesn't get fixed by something outside of you. So breathing with you, and so delighted that fit and made sense for you. That's just awesome. We did our job. So hello, everyone else. Glad you're here. Anyone else have a thought for us? Question, answer, idea?
I wanted to bring up something else about the retreat, which was if it was powerful for both Andrea and Anita and myself. So I'm sure other people will get something from this. First of all, kudos to you for really holding the natural state of the masculine for a template for Andrea, Anita, and myself. So deepest of gratitude to you for that.
Honored and delighted.
Yeah, and when I did a still point with Michael, the last still point session, of course, it was all a build up to have that session so the clarity could come. And it was around how I had used my mind energy to replace the masculine for all the ills that man has done. So I did
Individual men have done.
Yeah, exactly. And then also even in the case of feminine, because I saw my mother in the past as weak, where I would have replaced the truth of the feminine for the aspects of what the human woman has done.
Right.
And so that that opened so much for me, and so my reality screen can open and receive the truth of the masculine and the feminine in its divine presence, and then being able to allow that to filter through my physiology within my own self of my own inner masculine and feminine. And I was doing body work this morning and laying here, just meditating and breathing. And I asked, because I've got lots of stuff still, it's gotten lessened, but there's still energetic blocks on my right side. And I was just asking, what do you need? I'm here. I'm here. What is it that you need? And it was my masculine saying it wanted to be received, wanted to be honored, also wanted to be cherished, wanted to be respected. Whole bunch of language came around that. So I wanted to bring that forward. I think there's an opportunity for all of us to understand the truth of what the masculine and the feminine truly represent in the light of God, not in the human conditioned false self.
Well, and we have a saying in the culture that denotes the degeneration of mind energy of men toward being male, women toward being female, women toward men, and men toward women. We call it the battle of the sexes, and it's all a result of deeply complex constructs of the mind where we have mistaken what an individual man or men have done, or individual men and women have done, with either the masculine or feminine principle. And that just creates such confusion, and who can work through it? But once you realize that there is a masculine principle, and it ties into with the Aramaic language. The Aramaic is much like the French language, that words are gendered by the indicators in the language, like LE compared to LA before a word, la femme. It is, of course, referring to a woman, but the LA simply is language that's gendered feminine. And LE is gendered masculine. In the Aramaic, God, the word, is gendered feminine, but it doesn't mean God's a man. And the breath is gendered feminine. It doesn't mean the breath is a woman. But these principles we've gotten mixed up with what insane humans have done, the same way, the example I use when we're talking about that is the same way as people have confused the brutality of individuals within the church, and there's certainly been plenty of that, the brutality and lack of integrity of people within the church and thinking it's the church. No, it's not. It's what individuals have done. And when we clean that principle up in our minds, then we can open to a whole other level of embracing the both gendered aspects of ourselves and each other without that cloud. We can separate that cloud, and yes, there's work to be done by all of us in that regard with what the individual humans have done or not done that they could have or should have or shouldn't have done. But it's certainly a big principle. And Susan and I talked about this morning, and we came up with the language of when referring to the feminine and masculine created equally and complementary love. That's what we are. And once we move into a deeper understanding of that, we can end this battle that has gone on for forever, called the battle of the sexes, and realize it's just, just more stuff to be worked out.
Yeah, it really, to come into perspective of what the qualities and the archetypical expressions of the divine father and the divine mother, or the masculine and feminine. For example, the father would be the solar light, the mother being the lunar mystery, And then you get, the core attributes of the masculine is structure, will, protection, discipline, illumination. The mother's nurturing, intuition, right? Creative, flow, very compassionate. And then allowing the feminine, where she allows the energy to flow and in her emotions and healing and birth and the inner sense, the intuition and inner wisdom, where the father, the masculine, can hold consciousness solid and in direction with sacred order, So yeah, that's really landing. So I'm really excited to see what that's going to reveal as we go forward, because again, my blockage to truth was that I went and put the power person dynamic of human man onto in my file, the divine masculine into my file folder of the the human man. So that's unraveling.
Well, and you were saying that you're going to be picking your farmer up at the airport later today, as I understood it, and
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see what kind of shift there is in the in perception there.
Yeah, tomorrow night I pick him up. So yeah, that will
Yeah,
be to be able
cool.
to just and even as I noticed, like now when we're waiting at the airport, we met a fella, Andrea and Anita and I, and just chit chatting. Yeah, I do. There's a compassion towards the masculine now that I've never had, and I really saw them as my enemy.
Yeah.
Guarded against them, that they're my competition. I lived my whole life that way, that I was in competition with men. And even for everybody, so this is a little funny story. So after the session, we're packing up and there's a chair and stuff to go out and there's a massage table. I go, I'll take that. And Michael just laughs. Men are created with more strength than women. It's okay. You can just, you don't have to
That if
compete.
I'm gonna get it done like any man would.
Yeah, that's it. That's very bad, lessening, softening. I don't have to, but that was
You don't have to.
that
Not that
is
you can't.
I
Not that
know
you can't, but you don't have to. You don't have to put that on,
exactly.
and
I
that
know.
we are complementary to each other as males and females, and then when we realize that, there's just there's nothing sexist about a man honoring a woman
Yeah.
and opening the door for her.
Yeah.
Although where people haven't worked this principle through, oh well, now you're just anyway, it's a whole story to be
Yeah,
healed.
I know. And I loved what you said, and Anita, all three of us commented on where you said that, the way that you and Jeanie go about doing things completely different. And how you,
Oh,
the
different is
attributes.
the
Yeah.
understatement of the century. I mean, if you take anything
Complementary.
with us,
That's our
they
new
are
word. It's not
complementary.
different. Complementary. So
Yeah.
the complementary nature that you guys do things adds lots of opportunity to be deeply embraced in love, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yes.
So
Cammie, you have a thought?
Oh yeah, I just wanted to say, thank you for bringing that up, because in the intensive, it came through loud and clear for me that when I reject the masculine, I'm rejecting that part of me.
Yeah.
And that just like washed over me with a wave. And then, Susan, when you said competition, that men always resembled competition, I had that too, but also that I had to protect myself from them.
Yeah.
So it's like this
Yep.
constant hyper arousal going on just being around men.
1000%.
Yeah,
1000%. I get that one.
Which also
so
then would end up with functioning out of that principle and tending to lash out like that which one fears, the power person. Remember the power person
right.
dynamic that I unconsciously I'm prompted by my own internal dynamics to do what my power person did to me that I detested the most. And so I mean the whole thing is just to be cleaned up, that's all.
Yeah, yeah. It's like just sitting and waiting. Like, if you remember at the beginning of the intensive, I was like, there's way too much male energy here. I could hardly stand to be in it. And there were only 3 men there. you know?
Guys, there's a
But
whole lot more estrogen in the room now. Come on, Cammie.
right? But when that came over me, um it was just like, oh my gosh, I'm rejecting that part of myself. And
Andrea, you have a
so
thought? Yeah, that's so important to embrace both aspects. You know, we have the ability, the male principle is origination and the female principle is execution. And when we're in balance, then our lives are balanced.
what do you mean execution?
Well, the feminine principle or pardon me, the masculine principle in a sense is the originator, i.e., let's say in reproduction, the sperm initiates a process within the female, and the female does all the work of carrying it out, the execution of it, the
Oh,
carrying
okay.
out of the process. So there's origination and the executive ability to carry through, and we have both sides of that in ourselves and within our world.
Gotcha. I totally took that as execution,
Like
as
killing.
in,
Oh,
yes.
oh yeah, no, that was
Yes. And
more.
I was like, yeah, I just tensed up and was
Wait a
like,
minute, who are we executing here? No, no, nobody.
what do you mean female is execution?
Right. Oh, that's just my issue with women.
Past life memory, Cammie.
And
Past life
funny,
energetic pattern just came up.
yeah. And then when you said something about the sperm,
Mhm.
I totally felt like this attack.
Mhm.
Like, the way they showed the pictures of the sperm going to the egg and like
Right.
poking itself in there. Like, I guess I always saw it as kind of like chipping away at a shell. I don't know if our eggs have like a shell. I have no idea.
Well, it's
But
interesting, it's interesting the some of the subtle research has been done in that particular arena, and they've shown that the egg will refuse millions of sperm until the one with the right energy comes, and that's when the opening occurs, that the sperm can penetrate the egg. It isn't just like
interesting.
first one who gets there and knocks on the door gets in. Many are
That's
rejected
weird.
until the one with the right vibration. It's like there's another level of something going on here.
I just
That
exactly. I was saying when I was thinking exactly what you were saying, Michael. That in that process that many are rejected until the perfect fit.
And that's interesting because what they taught us in school and what you see portrayed in movies and stuff is like the first one there wins.
yeah, no, not so. Andrea, you had a thought. You had your hand up.
I did. Yeah, it was really neat at the intensive because that was the first time that I got to really well, at first, a member I'd shared with you, like I wanted to, what was the word that I used? I wanted to challenge you. It wasn't challenge.
Beat the hell out of me. I think that's what you said, wasn't
No.
it?
But I just there was a natural leadership happening, and I wanted to, really pick apart your speech and different things. And then it wasn't challenge, but it was some type of challenge and came up really strong. And then once I got to share it and shed some tears and energy around it, I was able to completely surrender to the experience and same with Joe, like I had some triggers and I talked to him about it immediately. And then, Joe was even articulating, well, this is how men work. And this is what I was conditioned with. But then we talked about it and it felt like there was a sense of understanding. And then the rest of the intensive, I got to see masculine qualities from both, well, masculine and feminine. But as a masculine, for you and Joe, I got to really like watch not from a defensive observer, but just as as an observation in different moments where I could see the ways in which you guys were watching the order of things or the way in which things were unfolding and structuring it in different ways that actually felt really supportive of like, oh, I can just let my guard down and know that there's this flow happening where these masculines who are coming in and holding a sense of structure, like there's all this creation of form and energy in the room, and then there was this structuring and guidance that would happen, and I thought, wow, this is beautiful. And then a few things even happened where Joe was helping and somebody was saying, "Oh, no, I don't need your help. And why you already did your part." And, and then for me to really watch and go, he wants to, like, he wants to show up and support the feminine and like this beautiful, I'm just in service to the feminine. And while also being able to be feminine and masculine. And so there was a lot of things that I can't quite articulate that unfolded, but I was able to actually see it for the first time, um, from a state of surrender and not guardedness, or because I usually hold a space of mistrust, like, what are you doing? What are you trying to do here? Like, let me
Right.
understand. And I've been watching you like that for months. What are you trying to do? And what is it you want from us so that, first of all, I can assess if this is safe and I can trust it, and but also then how can I act so that I'm getting approved in the community? And then by the time the intensive happened and worked through those few issues, I could just surrender to the whole thing. There was nothing to figure out, or there was this ability to be able to share if something came up and surrender to the whole experience. So that was really potent for me too.
I hear you loud and clear, and I'd offer that also that being in that space from both sides of the equation, when we talk about this battle of the sexes, being in that space for the male toward the female or the female toward the male is part of what empowers that integrity to come forward. Because if someone very strongly expects a lack of integrity, if the potential for the lack of integrity is in the individual they're looking at, it's going to tend to resonate that and pull it forward. And that, of course, then one says, oh, see, now I've got the proof. And the truth is, the world is a world of make-believe. First we make it up, then we believe it, and then we go out and produce the evidence to prove that it's true. And when we can tap into, oh, this is a space safe of integrity, even someone who has the potential to be out of integrity will tend to function out of the integritous aspect of themselves because the support is there for it. So it's kind of like this, we either have matching bags of garbage that are going to play out, or we have matching bags of integrity, sweetness, and beauty that can play out. And of course, getting safe enough to allow that one to come forward works hand in hand with freeing ourselves of the damage of past generational traumas and our own experiences of trauma. So that's awesome to hear. Delighted that Joe was with us to hold that space and demonstrate that, and that you were there to be part of hearing it and be supported in it. That's to me, the whole reason for doing what we're doing is to create that kind of trust where it really is safe to look at whatever on either side of the equation we've been holding on to and free ourselves of it. So delighted to be on the team. Cammie, you have a thought?
Yes, I experienced it also. After I moved through, which I think just verbalizing it to you, I started
Right.
moving through, and then all of a sudden it was just incredible. And I saw like in Joe all of the things that I love about Matthew. And
Nice.
and then the interaction between you guys. I think Andrea kind of touched on this. Or not, I think this was the thing that I was like, yes, when you said it, Andrea, was being able to sit instead of in judgment of the way men interact together, to see it as beautiful. Beautiful, even I was just seeing with different eyes is the best that I can say, instead of like one of the triggers was Joe joking, was deflection, like like Andrea experienced also.
Right.
And then whenever I dropped that, it was just beautiful. It was very
That's
cool.
part of being able to create a space for it.
Yep, it was awesome.
Mm. It was awesome all the way around. I think it's beyond words. So
It is.
fabulous.
It is. I
Well, thank
think
you everybody for joining us. Nice work, Cammie. Nice work, Andrea, Susan. Fabulous. And we hold the space for the next layer for everybody when it needs to surface. That there will be support there, both from the masculine and feminine sides of the males and females around us, and together we really create this space in the world that then radiates out and makes it easier and easier and easier for every mind, heart, and being on the planet to heal. So thank you for joining us. Have a blessed one. We'll see you tomorrow. Bring strange to the show tomorrow.